Oh,
That's
trouble.
that's one thing you always know about cats. When they're not grazers.
Mia has. Who is that? That is Pollux. Has Pollux trapped?
Oh, okay. So you're not going to see it, and probably people aren't going to believe it. But Terry, that's nothing until you've seen an 8-pound cat bully a 65-pound dog into a corner. You have not seen anything.
True.
Shadow has chased her into my study more than once and then not let her out. And she gets more and more upset until finally Shadow decides she's had enough and he'll leave her alone and she'll just scamper out.
Please don't kill me.
Dad, the little thing with murder hooks is gonna get me. Make it stop.
I want to thank you for adopting me, but I didn't play. This wasn't part of the deal. When did murder mittens enter the deal? Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, they're still playing chase and chaos. And it's only a question of time before something else breaks in the house. Yeah, wouldn't trade it for the world. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul E. Cooley. Joining me today, as always, is Veronica Jagger and Terry Mixon, the co-hosts with the mostest. How you folks doing?
Present.
Pretty good.
Well, I guess that means we can get right into our topic. What kind of bullshit answers are those?
What are you looking for?
Something interesting. I live alone in this little room here. I don't get out much. Nobody talks to me except the dog and the cat.
It's hot outside.
It is hot outside. It's very hot outside. Holy shit. Yeah, I was just telling them that I walk Violet between 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning, and every time I step outside, it's just covered in sweat immediately because the heat index has been like 91 at 4 in the morning. It's just fucking awful. Anyway, enough of that. V, have you got your eye on these storms coming at you? And
I maintain that the fact that the two current named storms sitting in the Atlantic are Cindy and Brett. It's like
Biff and Betty Bowhead.
It's boomer vacation hell. It's like, did you hear? Brett and Cindy are just north of Puerto Rico. Isn't that exciting?
Like, oh my God, that's so bad. Start of every live. Okay, I think Terry should hold up a cat at the start of every live so we can start these things off with a shot. We do not endorse any drinking games that are made up or designated on cats or anything one of us might say.
I know. So, I am not wearing a shirt. For those who are watching this, I'm not wearing a shirt with pictures of fruit. They're just little lips.
Oh, because that makes it better. That makes it less creepy.
Dude.
Could be Rocky Horror Picture Show related.
It could be. Or just, Why are you two assaulting me about my fashion choices?
I'm not assaulting you.
No,
I'm absolutely not.
I wasn't assaulting.
I like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Okay, all right.
It's fantastic. I always want to do magenta.
I'll stop persecuting you. I wasn't meaning to persecute you, but I guess I'll persecute you.
It's astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll.
Really?
And we know Terry will be riffraff. Okay.
Brett says, woohoo, I'm a storm coming to Puerto Rico. Smoochy fruit. This is definitely not the podcast for fashion. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. He's bitter.
Coming from the guy wearing a tie, I'm not going to be lectured by some guy wearing a tie.
Oh, oh my God. Oh, there's so much trouble in this episode. The fallout is going to be amazing, and I can't wait for it. Well, besides dodging storms, what are you up to?
Let's see. What am I up to? Still auditioning. Still corralling audiobook projects and planning for a road trip.
What kind of road trip?
So both my kids qualified for a national bowling tournament.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so we will be traveling up to Indianapolis for a couple weeks. And wow.
Yes, but I get a lot more fun out of that cat tree than you get out of that tie.
Don't
Depending, but I think the fact that we both just, like
you used to write some choice literature. I think that maybe you want to roll that statement back.
Oh no, I'm going to stand by that statement. We can fight.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, V. Continue.
I'll enjoy the hell out of this.
Never pay more than your lunch money for a tie. Oh God, here we go.
I used to go. Sorry, I know I'm overriding you. But when I worked for NASA, I used to go to the resale shops and find the ugliest ties that I could find, because there would be one day a week where when we were wearing ties that we would just wear the most hideous things we could locate as far as ties went.
Yeah, my daughter. I don't have one of those. Blah.
Was that with your other wife?
I have a relative whose husband wears a tie that says "I hate ties" in binary.
That's a good one.
Because he's required to wear one at work, so I understand completely. Hello,
bowling, National Bowling.
Yeah, so pretty much heading up from Florida to Indianapolis for a week, and driving a bunch of bowling equipment and taking notes on oil patterns and physics. It's the nerdiest sport. I swear to God, it is the nerdiest sport ever.
I just thought they got drunk and hurled the ball down there and hoped for the best.
I think that's if you're 50. But like when you're between the ages of like 12 and 20, it's like children were Googling the like types of bowling balls that were at a raffle I worked at a tournament a couple weekends ago, and there was a ball that was up for one of the giveaways. And before my daughter decided to buy tickets for this raffle, she straight up snapped a picture of the ball, snapped a picture of the box to get the details, and Googled what type of ball, what type of core, all of these different details, and then went, oh, I do need that in my arsenal. Can I have $5 for tickets? So yeah,
I just got to know, how much would that ball have cost if she bought it? Ballpark it.
$200. Yeah, yes, I will say that in terms of equipment and other necessities, it is one of the less expensive sports, because when you get your equipment, you can stay with it for longer. But yes, Reno, if they qualify, will be going up there next year, because that's where it is in Reno. It circulates through a couple of different places. Yeah, I've learned way too much about bowling in the past couple of years. Way too much. I had to help her make both of them, but make college bowling resumes for recruiting.
No, that makes sense.
It does make sense. So my kids actually look really good on paper. So who knows?
Too bad you have to meet them in real life and discover their gingers.
But they're cute gingers.
There's no
I take that back. One has never met a stranger and will happily talk to you and comment on things, and the other will give a death glare, put earbuds in, and focus on the game.
Oh, typical teenager.
Guess which one's the most like me?
No comment.
Uh-oh, yes. Fight behind me. I see a fight.
Oh no. For those only listening, is that Castor? It has to be Castor.
No, it's not. It's still Pollux.
It's still Pollux? Then
so, while V prepares for bowling disasters, Terry, what the hell have you been up to?
I have continued to write on the book that I'm working on. The book that I finished comes out tomorrow. I've been climbed on by cats.
Man, if there were a drinking game, some motherfuckers be dead right now.
This is beyond.
This isn't like the old days. This is now absolute chaos.
It's like we shouldn't do a drinking game. We should just do bingo because alcohol poisoning is real.
Up? Yeah, which cat?
Yeah, it's almost like.
For those of you in land where cannabis is legal, take a hit now. Take several. Take many.
Because currently, Julius has positioned himself on Terry's arms so that Terry must huff cat hair.
Right now, we just see Terry's forehead. Terry's forehead is okay. Now there's a beard. He's now
Terry really doesn't have a beard. It's just the accumulation of Julius's fur that has rubbed off and collected in his pores.
Totally true. That's accurate.
So you've got another book published. You're working on another book. Nothing has changed with you. It's the same as every week.
No, I'm about 40,000 words into the book that I'm currently writing. I'm about 8 chapters in on the Empire book that I am also slowly writing at the same time. And I'm going to make a pitch for the next series probably by the end of this month to start working out the rough outlines of what it will be.
Okay.
So there's lots of busy going on, lots of things to do. It feels like every day is every day. I write every day, so it feels like every day is every day.
I understand that completely. I have not had that problem. I have been working a lot. So back into code land, big time. Been really enjoying the hell out of it.
Uh-oh. She's going to make her move.
Oh,
dun, 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 dun.
Apart from that, reading up on Neptune Stars and getting it ready to send to Sever Press and biting and nipping away at the sequel to that one. So that's about the extent. I'm still waiting for my voice to heal up somehow so I can finish narrating Neptune Scars. William says that he's trying to drink coffee, not shoot it out of his nose. Well, I'm sorry. We should have a PSA announcement. Veronica used to complain all the time about that. And we actually thought about including a PSA, but we thought it was a bit pretentious. Then again, if people listen to the show often enough, they know there's no pretense that actually happens. So there you go. Well, now we've got done with this boring ass small talk. I have a question.
Oh, geez. Do I have to have an answer?
I've got an answer. It's probably not going to be relevant, but it's an answer.
There's this thing called the Wizard of Oz. And there's all this machinations going on behind the scenes and all this fuckery. And it turns out it's just some little dude hanging out at a control panel, making everybody's lives miserable.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
So he's playing God and then just gets discovered not to be a god.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one trope, of course. Another trope is, why the hell is God in there is messing with this in the first place? And then the question becomes, what is God? Is God the author peeking around the corner at the reader and saying, look at this I did? Or does it actually serve the story? That's the question.
Can it be both?
Yes, it can, I think. But I'm going to kick back and listen to what you two have to say for a moment. So, Veronica, what do you think?
There's a name for this. What's the name for this whole idea?
Well, it could be called metafiction to a certain degree. And then, of course, there is the wonderful words Deus ex machina.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so if I'm gonna grab this from Wikipedia, so I know where I'm starting from, at least for a quick definition. Just quick definition, it's a plot device which, and strangely enough, I've played one of the video games I used to play. There was a mission where you had to rescue the PLOT device. It was great.
That's very meta. That's
awesome.
like unobtainium or whatever it was. Yeah.
So it's a plot device whereby a seemingly unsolvable problem in a story is suddenly or abruptly resolved by an unexpected and unlikely occurrence. Its function is generally to resolve an otherwise irresolvable plot situation, to surprise the audience, to bring the tale to a happy ending, or act as a comedic device. I don't particularly like them. I don't know. It's not that I think it's lazy writing. It's that I like some logic. Like I want a reason. So if you can see like where that's coming from, absolutely awesome. Or it's revealed in like the first story as this is a solution, but it becomes integral in later installments. Fantastic.
Or it's just plain mythology.
Oh, yeah, mythology I can deal with, but there's a reason for it. It's not just the world didn't blow up. Why? Well, it turns out so and so, didn't flip this switch. The end. not particularly. Yeah.
Oh, Brett says the absolute most annoying example is The Stand, when the hand of God literally comes down. I hate that book. I don't know why people like that book. I really don't.
That is one of, it's not one of the MG's favorite books, but it's that's actually one of the first movies, like the original one that he and I watched together. Like went to Blockbuster freshman year and rented the 4 VHS set and watched it all in one night.
That's impressive.
Yes, I think that was the first Stephen King movie I'd ever seen. So yeah,
there are better ones.
They're better ones, but that's a good one. It's like, wait, what? No. I think sometimes if you don't do it right, it does a disservice to your whole setup. And if we're going to call back to, conversations that we've had about keeping your promise to the reader, I think that breaks the promise. I think it can, if it's done poorly, you're making things too easy. You make things definitely. Way too easy for your characters. You make it way too, I'm not a fan of it. And even with not necessarily with the Wizard of Oz, because oddly enough, I'm not as familiar with that as I am the Wiz, because that was awesome. I love Richard Pryor. It's like,
Oh, I forgot he was in that.
He was the Wiz, and it's I'm just playing old Herman Smith from Atlantic City.
I'm thinking about Pit and the Pendulum. The guy's pretty much screwed, and Eric Idle storms in and screams, "Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition."
So the Spanish Inquisition was the Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex Machina.
See, you have trouble pronouncing it too. I know I mangle it every single time.
I think Monty Python's actually the best example of Deus Ex Machina, because half the skits end up with the foot of God stomping on somebody.
But you expect that absurdity.
Exactly. Yeah. You expect the absurd.
So I guess if it's part of the pacing and the flavor of the story, then sure, it's great.
Let me throw in, and before we get to Brett's comment there, Paul, I don't use the direct hand of God, but I use characters to introduce things that otherwise wouldn't be introduced. So what do you think of Carl Owlett as Deus Ex Machina?
Who?
Oh, Carl in Empire of Bones he starts out as this nerdy little grad student researcher who essentially gets to creates and plays with all of these weapons.
Oh, this guy. Okay.
And I think he's at the beginning. Yes, he is a bit of that kind of character, in that he comes up with these like, where in the world did you pull this out of? But by setting it up with a couple of limitations, then later on when he goes and goes, oh, remember that I introduced 2 books back? We can totally grab that. It's not as it's not as wonky with the plot.
If built up slowly, it means that you can build literally Thor's hammer and not have people scream at you.
Right.
Which I did.
Mm-hmm.
Over time.
But you're not putting the whole machine out there. You're just like throwing a couple gears here, a couple gears there. You're slowly building it until it's there to do what you need to do.
In the last Hunter series, I introduced Patrick the Assassin, who's from a higher technology society. He's the only person from that society in the sphere of events that are taking place. And so I've used him to start introducing new technology to his friends in a kind of odd, quirky, and maybe a little bit stalkerish way.
He sounds like the Dark Knight's Joker. He really does. Like, he just pops up. He's just an agent of chaos.
I don't know that he's an agent of chaos. He is an assassin, so he doesn't really have the morals that everybody else does.
Does it look like that to everybody else, though, that he's an agent of chaos, even though he is not acting
maybe
chaos?
So. Maybe it does look like he's an agent of chaos. But over the last couple of books, his gifts have gotten larger and more expansive and have come with interest in one of the characters. And she's like, oh, I don't know about this. Oh, this is bad. This is real bad.
Well, there's totally a spinoff here.
He has decided that he wants her as a protege. She does not. But he might be winning her over. Nothing like being wooed with spacecraft and hacking tools and all kinds of other high-tech goodies.
And pleasure devices you never dreamed of.
He was not so crass as to introduce any pleasure devices.
No, that's next week's episode. Look at V.
I was about to go, Patrick doesn't sound like that bad of a guy. And then I'm like, wait a second. I don't know. It's, some girls want wine and chocolate. Others want, amazing hyperdrives. And
well, the character in question is a former criminal hacker, somebody that's not exactly usually in the good side of society. So she may not have the moral foundation to completely resist his charm, we shall say.
Antoine, stop it.
But when I had gotten beta results back from some of the beta readers, and one of them commented that I love Patrick. I hate Patrick. He is the ultimate Deus Ex Machina. I was like, yeah, pretty much. But I'm glad that somebody loved and hated him at the same time. So my plan is working.
I think there are instances where you can't get away from it, depending on the story you're writing. Brett asks an example of where it's done well. And I'm trying really hard to come up with one out of the books that I've read. And I know I've read at least one that had it. Shit. Well, here's my thinking about it. It kind of depends on how you're defining God. It kind of goes with high tech, right? The same comment can be made, if technology gets high enough, it's indistinguishable from magic.
Okay.
And I think God is the same way. I think that however you think of that motion or function or prime mover in the universe that is kind of moving things around, what if things can transcend to that state? If that's part of your book, so to speak, to the people who are living next to that that kind of magic. And think of primitive human beings. When something happened in the sky, they thought the gods were pissed. The crack of thunder was the gods playing, bowling or whatever the hell you want to talk about. Hurricanes where somebody was really pissed off. I mean, it's how we kind of associate things together. I think it's kind of impossible to sever that in a lot of ways. We still think of these things that we can't understand or we can't comprehend. They still have this odor of them, of the magical. And I'm not just saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that this Deus Ex Machina problem, depending on the elements of your story, it's kind of hard to get around it. Like, for instance, if you have AIs in your story or SEs that can do trillions of calculations about what's going to happen 5 seconds from now, or 15 minutes from now, or 30 minutes from now, chances are their percentages are going to get some things right. And if there are hundreds of them doing this and able to coordinate, it would look like they know the future, even though they're just basically getting it 75% of the time, and then making up for that 75% wrong by figuring out what the contingencies are. How can you possibly imagine that? How can we possibly comprehend that kind of thinking or that kind of, putting together the social elements? You can't. We can't comprehend really as a writer a machine learning program able to churn out a 250-page book in 15, 20 minutes. It'll be a piece of shit, but you'll get it done in 15 to 20 minutes. That is really difficult for us to imagine. It's something that's beyond us. That in itself is godlike. When it's not something that you personally could do, I would argue that the cell phone in your pocket is a god in the machine, is a ghost in the machine. It is telling you things that you could never know. It is a device to the magical realm. And the magic is there everywhere. And having access to it is both a boon and a problem for a writer, because for people who write suspense, we always have to figure out how to cut the goddamn communication lines.
Yeah, that's
an annoying god.
Yeah, and because we have in our daily lives, we have this precedent for being able to solve a problem quickly with what we have on hand. And when you write fiction, you're asking people to suspend that. I don't want to say suspend common sense, but
Disbelief.
Yeah. And to move forward, I know that's why a lot, if you look at some more popular series, in order to make scenarios plausible, your group gets isolated, they get stranded, shipwrecked, plane crash. You have some of your more compelling dramas set 20, 30 years ago because there's a huge limitation on technology.
God, yes.
And
I'm going to write books back then.
And it's easier to set something in the 90s where no, you couldn't just, assume that every other kid had a cell phone and would call back. So
that says the trope of the cell phones being out. I roll. Yeah, unless the government's actually doing it.
Or you're
resorted to.
Yeah, the fun bit of, we're in an area of the country where
zone.
No.
Conveniently.
I mean, yes, there are dead zones, but in this day and age, it's not as plausible unless you're really, really out in the, BFE land.
And if you're in BFE land, you would have a sat phone if you were actually trying to be out there and maintain contact with anybody for real.
Exactly.
And those things can't be Star Wars, when it came out, there's small scale Deus Ex Machina in that. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Literally doing that.
Because
that's telepathy, though.
Right,
that's
because Star Wars, and I will die on this hill, Star Wars is fantasy that is set in space.
It's science fantasy, yes.
Right. It's not not your conventional science fiction. So I think
Wizard's got a wizard.
Yeah, part of that bit where part of that bit where they're establishing the Force as, your magic world,
it's your mana
system.
base.
Yeah, your magic system. Then you're using those small things to build it up. So by the time, if in A New Hope, it's Obi-Wan going, these aren't the droids you're looking for, move along, and establishing that basic telepathy, basic mind manipulation, and moving it all the way up to Return of the Jedi, where you've got, lightsabers being commanded from halfway across the room. So.
Yeah, Brett says Jedi powers are a deus ex machina. They can do things what people cannot, and usually the impossible. Yeah, they're kind of a crutch.
It's magic.
Yeah, they're a crutch. It's always hard to have a discussion with magic when you have magic and non-magic users. And the non-magic users have no clue what the hell's going on. It's a very, very different conversation. If it's magic users versus magic users, as in Jedi versus Jedi, it's a totally different ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
David Woods says, sorry I'm late. Have we discussed sending Cooley down on the Titanic sub yet? For research, of course. Well, first of all, David, my understanding is there is no more sub to go down in. Chances are
they did go ahead and put out a job opening for a new pilot.
I hope you're kidding.
I really
hope you're kidding.
I am not. I think that may have been up before the accident, but somebody found it afterward, and that's like, wow. Wow.
And I think as of now, the company is like completely shuttering its doors. So
it should, because it's going to get the fuck suit out of it.
I know too much, and one of my good friends from college is, last I checked, she's working with the Coast Guard, on submarines, on like R&D for submarines and rescue, and she's a rescue dive. Well, she's a dive master, but she's certified in multiple things. And just one of those situations where a little too much, and you're just kind of going, oh dear.
Well, when they were talking about how flimsy and held together with baling wire it was, I was like, who the fuck is dumb enough? Hey, do you know what explosive decompression is, you morons?
Did you know that Mythbusters did something related to this?
Oh, they've done several diving related ones.
They wanted to see what there was a myth that losing your pressure at a sufficient depth will put the diver in its own helmet.
I remember that.
And so they used pig meat and bones and everything else to create a meat stick diver, and found out that indeed that was true.
Yikes. Mm-hmm. William says Deus Ex Machina is only Deus Ex Machina if it's unpromised. The Force is promised in Star Wars, so I don't think it can be considered as such.
Okay, I'll buy that.
It's promised, but I think some of the argument that we're seeing, from chat, it's not always explained well, and I will put that on just the sheer writing of Star Wars, because let's say the dialogue is questionable, especially in later. What?
You made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs?
I did not. I did not. Sadly.
I thought I was the only one that said that shit, because whenever I did, Justin came unhinged. So,
I love Star Wars. I genuinely do. Like, my AP English teacher in high school used the original trilogy to teach archetypes and writing and all of these things. And so for like 6 weeks in my senior year, oh darn, we've got to watch Star Wars and analyze it. It was fantastic. When you have to
you actually learned something.
Yeah, it was great. And then I wonder now if if you had someone do the same thing, you could do a whole semester on all 9 movies. Excuse me. And how different archetypes and tropes, and how how they repeat throughout, the whole bit. You can incorporate the actual written books that come in between. I mean, there's a wealth of stuff there. But the reason I think that people latch onto the Force as more Deus Ex Machina is because it's not explained well.
No, it is fucking not. It starts out as a spiritual thing, and then it's got midichlorians, and what the fuck?
Yeah, it's strange.
Tim says if the Force was a system, I would say it's not Deus Ex Machina, but across all 9 main films, the rules change or deform, maybe.
But that's...
Oh, a man after my own heart. Tim says, so the Force is the water and the dialogue is poop. Does that mean Star Wars is a toilet? Yes. There.
Ouch.
I said it. Also,
Ouch.
Superman's a pussy. There we go.
I
have said my two hot takes today. I'm done now.
Tough crowd.
Damn.
I can't wait for the emails and Discord messages. The threats to quit Patreon.
You get many threats to quit Patreon because of your opinions?
No.
I figure by now everybody knows you, so seems.
With this crowd, you might even get a few more subscribers with that.
We obviously need more clickbait titles to get people to view our episodes.
I'm trying, man. but it doesn't help when we have a topic at the last effing second. David says, I preferred the Force before they tried to explain it. Yes. When it was a religion, it was different. David says McCumber is flipping Cooley off from the afterlife. Yeah, he probably is.
Wait, why can't we go ahead and have somebody take Justin and put a Force ghost of him right behind Paul right now?
I need that technology. That would be fucking hilarious. Have him sitting on my shoulder just doing this.
I am pretty sure the man would approve. He would approve so hard.
Oh, yes,
my gosh.
Oh, yes, he would. Yeah.
David Wood's our resident Photoshopper. I think he needs to get on that right now.
I haven't been on Facebook in like 2 years, so I have or is it 3? I can't remember. I have no idea what kind of Photoshop nonsense he's been up to lately.
Who knows? There's always Discord for you to see.
William says, explaining the Force changes the genre of Star Wars, I think.
Well, no, because you can explain magic. It is possible to have a magical system that is explained.
They don't explain how it works in Tolkien.
No,
it just does.
No, but there are other magical systems, either with urban fantasy or paranormal romance, where you've got a magic system and it is somewhat explained. But it has to be explained well, and it has to be explained consistently throughout the whole thing. I don't know if you could, maybe it's me. I don't think by giving an additional explanation, it explains away the magic of the magic, especially if it's not accessible to everyone.
Tim says his issue is not that there is no explanation of the Force. The issue is that the explanation changes. And explaining the Force scientificates it. Yes, that is the big problem I have for the midichlorian bullshit, is because it just, instead of being able to feel the power of another person and have, Force sense or whatever the fuck you want to call it, be able to feel each other's energy patterns or auras, anything else. Why wouldn't you be able to tell if a person's got it with that? Wouldn't that make more sense than trying to scan their goddamn DNA to find the midichlorians? What the hell is this bullshit? It made so much better sense when it's like, oh, we're tapping into this thing that's out there, and you can either tap into it, the energy for one side or for another, which doesn't really work, but that's enough explanation for me. I don't need anything else. Tim says in the original trilogy, it's based on things like Dharma and Tao. In the prequels, it's a monastic order. In the sequels, it's Harry Potter. There's a certain truth in that, because I know the first 2 books, at least, well, the first story, Spin Under the Mind's Eye, which is written and what all this shit is based on, and all this stuff that Luke has studied with Joseph Campbell, the master of myth.
Right.
If you're not familiar with his work and you're a writer, you should be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, Terry, you're ashamed of yourself.
Sure.
Because it explains all the mythic tropes and all the different stories and kind of where they come from, what they mean, and why they're there in our social thinking and everything else. It won't change your writing, but it might change your view on how some of these stories work, which I think is worth the time. Regardless, Lucas was basing it all that. That all went out the window. After the third movie, and I would say even during the third movie, that all went out the window. It became something different. And then it became this horrible morass of trying to be traditional sci-fi opera with all this other stuff dangling off of it. And they just couldn't get it right for me. It just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me at all. Popcorn. I am all the Jedi I've seen in episode 9. There's an episode 9? Alice Noob says, I'm not an author, I'm just a hardcore fan, but when money is tight, I go to libraries to get books. Do authors get paid this way? How can I help authors when money is tight? Technically, we do get paid for this. We get paid when you check out our audiobooks from public library or one of the services. We get paid when so many ebooks or physical trade paperbacks are lent out or whatever.
Well, the library will buy the paperback or hardcover. So we'll have been paid for that book in some form or fashion. If they have an audiobook or they have it in the ebook, we supposedly get some fraction of that as well.
We do. Depends on the service and everything else. But I mean, however you get it, even if you're just getting it from my podcast, thank you for listening and reading and everything else.
When money is tight, the best way you can help an author is mention their books to somebody that may not know about them.
Pimp us.
You can, a Goodreads account is free if you are simply putting it out there and leaving a review, because Goodreads, you don't have to buy the book to leave a review. You can simply say, yep, this is on my shelf, I read it, and then leave a review and people will find it. So that's one of the best things that you can do if you like social media and you want to say, hey, I just finished reading this book, it was awesome, here's why. That's great. And the other thing is, if authors have a presence on if they have a Facebook page, if they've got a website, a community email address, Brett Shush, then you can just drop them a note and say that you like their work. Patting the ego every so often is not a bad thing.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Alice Noob says, pimp you? Do I get the cool fedora and cane when I do? Wow, you know what?
You should. You should treat yourself, and you should go out and get the cool fedora and cane right now.
If I had enough money, I wouldn't need pimping. I would have a steady stock of pimp fedoras and canes to send out to patrons and things like that. That would be absolutely hilarious.
Along with signed photos of you in a toga.
No, that shit is never fucking happening again.
It doesn't have to happen again. She's got up on her Etsy page.
I deleted my Facebook account and deleted most of my Twitter account. Those pictures cannot be found associated with me. What you people did with deep fake technology back then is simply amazing. I can't believe that actually ended up there. That's just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can deep fake those sparkly unicorn slippers.
No, there is no way to deep fake that shit. The scary thing is that it happened. Tim says,
I know, I was in the picture.
I don't know. Was that as terrifying as the tutus or no? Were you there for the tutus?
Oh, I was there for the tutus. The MG was there for the tutus, please. I remember that one.
The infamous street release party.
It was glorious.
It was glorious. No, there's not going to be a DRS OnlyFans with fedoras and nudes. No, that is not happening.
You can leave your hat on. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I'll do the hat dance. Nobody wants to see that. Trust me. For that, you got to buy a Cooley book. Oh, thank you. You await your fedora to match your tie.
Not a trilby, a fedora, because there is a difference.
Oh God, this is great. I love it when chat's obnoxious. It's the best way to do these episodes. I would say, going back to the original topic, that I am guilty.
Why are you admitting your guilt?
Why am I admitting my guilt? Because I'm an honest man. You could make the argument that the trio is God in the Derelict Saga. You could make that argument. So, was that the point? And that's a question the reader is going to kind of have to ask themselves. It's not something I can answer. I can only answer the way I wrote it. And I'm still, honestly, a little... haven't really made up my mind about some of that. But I know that if we get to a point where today's technology looks like to primitive man what the future looks like to us, it's going to be impossible to see it as anything else. I would pay for a pic with Cooley with just a hat covering up his extraterrestrial, so the copy of the street. My extraterrestrial testicles. Okay, there we go.
Wow.
Paul has alien balls. You heard it here first.
You know, it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor that he has 3. Just a rumor.
I'm tree balling.
He's like the tripods from War of the Worlds.
You mean he's got a big wick? No. He's got 3 bowling balls. Well, that must be hard to wear jeans. I mean, yeah, you'd have the one bash in the front.
Unfortunately, his wick is more like a John Wick, so that's how that worked out.
I don't know how to even take that. Are you saying my member is very violent and wipes out everything it touches?
Good night, everybody.
Brett,
wow.
You shush. Wow. That really doesn't bear thinking about. Don't mention me and Bear in the same sentence. Don't do that. Phrasing. Again. No, we're not in After Dark already.
For folks wondering what goes on in the second half of the show, here is your free preview.
I don't know. Last week's no context quote. Thanks for all the butt stuff. Oh, shit. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, it's only 24 minutes away, 23 minutes away, something like that.
More like 13. Well, yeah, 23 minutes away with 10 minutes.
13 to the end of this show, or 12 to the end of the show. Why are we counting? What the hell's wrong with us? So anyway, we have finished our discussion on Deus Ex Machina to a certain degree. My question is, what does chat want us to talk about or answer?
Junk, obviously.
It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing to write home about. Nobody needs to talk about my junk.
That's what she said.
That is indeed what she said. 13 is Taylor's favorite number.
Well, I was referring to his wife, but
like you're making it. You're the only she. How rude of you! What the heck does Cooley write?
Well, he is secretly Chuck Tingle, so you can make up your own mind about what he writes.
I wonder if Chuck Tingle plays pitch deck.
If not,
I think that's how he plots out his books.
That would work. That actually would make a lot of sense.
Can you imagine it? Just he's got a whole room, and he's just got pitch deck cards on the walls. He goes, what am I going to do today? Do. Grab a card. It's like, So we've got Stegosauruses and
that's pretty much the way the Iron Chef writing competitions work, right? I mean, it's just they throw a bunch of ingredients in there and say, go make a story.
Yep.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if you're if you're stuck on something, I think that's a wonderful device to get your brain thinking, and basically just chatting with somebody about it. I think that's a wonderful way to get past a block and also a wonderful way to say, I'm blocked because this isn't the story I want to tell. This sounds more like the story I want to tell, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's happened to me multiple times. So just roll with it. But it's fun. It gets fun that way. Pitch deck is an experience. We at one point we were going to have to play this at a con for real.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be bad. It'll be really bad.
It will be interesting.
Alice says other authors I follow say Tingle is an AI algorithm. Oh boy. Yeah, that's entirely possible. I have never read a Chuck Tingle book. I will probably never read a Chuck Tingle book, I have to be honest. But I don't know if I can answer that question if he's an AI algorithm. I have no idea.
This stuff's on Audible. Now I gotta go check.
If it's not, why not? It's only available on OnlyFans or something.
So if it's AI written, is having an AI narrator a negative or a positive?
Well, I think you get 2 copyright strikes because you can't copyright either the audio or the fiction.
Why am I wiping my arm? Because Julius gave me a nice little scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that from bleeding.
We'd appreciate that. Casualties on the show. See, the cats are just nasty. Violet hasn't even put in an appearance.
Okay. This is interesting. I actually know someone who's narrated a Chuck Tingle book now that I am looking at what's on Audible. There's a ton of the stuff on
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to identify Chuck Tingle. Dun, 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 dun.
No, now I'm like, I need to go find this person and go ask. I'm like, did you seriously? Probably through a publisher too. And I'm like, really? So, things I learned today.
There you go.
Estethika says, what is your, I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure. What is your solution when you always start new writing projects but never finish a draft because new ideas pop every now and then and the ongoing one gets boring or you feel it's not worth it?
Switch between projects. If you've got 3 or so projects going on, when you get to the point where you've got a couple in the back burner already and you don't feel you're bored with one you've got, force yourself to go to one of the other ones that are already in progress and don't let them get too large of a number to bounce between. That's one of the solutions you can try.
Terry, how dare you make me an example when I only have like 12 novels in progress?
Well, at least you're exemplary. On the bad side, but still exemplary.
Yeah.
Hey, I published books. I got like 15 or 16 of them out there now. So I would have 12 more though.
So, Alice, you're asking, how could you tell the work was written by an AI or narrated by one? Narrated by one, easy. It's actually... So, one of the things with narration is good narration pauses and reads the subtext. Because there are many different ways to say a word based upon, the stuff that comes before it or the stuff that comes after it. And if you don't have a dialogue tag in there, like said sarcastically or grumbled or growled or whatever, and, you could say, what? Then you're changing the meaning of that single word. Same thing with pacing. To be able to speed up and slow down to match the feeling of a scene or, where you want the emotions to go. It's acting. It really is. It's acting. You're just in a padded room and you've got headphones on and you may or may not be in your pajamas, but it's still acting.
They may not have had 3 shots of scotch just to make sure your voice is at the right level of grumpiness.
Yeah, no. Maybe you. No.
Nah, it was the street. It's the only way I got through that. Like drinking Jack. What was it? Jim Beam? Yeah, drinking Jim Beam straight.
Nope.
Only way I got through that book.
Nope. But it's you can't necessarily tell by short samples because you can go to a lot of these AI websites and like, hey, listen to this. Real conversation is consistently inconsistent. There are pauses. You don't always pronounce a word the same way with the same stresses every single time. And again, it's the pauses and the meanings between the words. I always tell people, if you were in like high school English class and you had that time where everybody had to study Romeo and Juliet, where everybody had to study Midsummer Night's Dream, which actually there's some Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, absolutely.
One of my favorites, but still. You had the people, they're like, dear God, please don't read. Just, you can't, please don't. I'd rather just sit and read it myself. Or you had the people who could read really well and you enjoyed listening to them because they were able to take that pace and put emotion and action and agency into what they're doing. AI cannot do that yet. And even though people have said, well, you just have to tell it how to do every single line.
Nope. Then what's the point of having AI?
Exactly. If you've got to tell it how to read every single line and program that, why don't you just hire a real person? And for anyone who said, but it's accessibility, screw that. Making something accessible does not mean if it's lower quality, it may be accessible, but it's not equitable.
My response is about accessibility. Get a fucking library card.
Yeah, that's
for people that have to listen to audiobooks because they're blind, say, and that's a way for them to do it. That's what she means by accessibility.
I understand that.
And it's a bit, people will say, but I want to make my book accessible to everybody, but I can't afford it. Or
that's a different kind of accessibility.
Yeah, or people will say, you're talking down AI because you don't want things to be accessible. I think accessibility should be at a high enough level for enjoyment, not just utility.
Aesthetica is a stupid combination of the Swedish words aesthetic and hiccup. So the pronunciation is not important.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah, excuse me, my soapbox. I will go and shove that back.
No, I think if you listen to people, especially good voice actors, if you listen to the way that they form their words, I mean, really listen. It's music.
It is. Absolutely.
It has notes. It has those breathy pauses, and it's not techno. It is orchestral. It is a orchestra playing behind the scenes and some brain conducting it all. And that music is what you get used to and why people fall in love with narrators and why it's not just the sound of their voice. It is the way they read the words. Mm-hmm. And it's the way they respond to those emotions and bring the characters to life, just like they do on a stage. So having something like an LLM, a large language model, try and follow that up, in a proper way, it ain't happening. It's not happening without a lot of work, and people just do not understand how much fucking data it takes to make something that's worth a shit. So it is always going to be subpar. It's never going to be like the real thing. At least probably not in my lifetime. It will after that.
Yeah. And something
of course, I'm only planning on living another 10 years. So there you go.
And something else to point out, our listening literacy is often higher than our just visual reading literacy. Because when you're listening, you don't just have the words, you have the melody, the pauses, the emotion behind it. And so, again, with accessibility, if you are counting on someone listening to the words, they may not be able to understand something that lacks that musicality and inference, as well as a human voice.
Right.
If I had, honest to God, if I was still in higher ed and I think my 7 years is up, so I can't do the PhD now. Sorry, Kat. Because if you're out of the program for 7 years, then technically you have to start over. But that would be a hell of a, doctoral research dissertation.
Oh, I completely agree.
What are the easy ways to tell the difference between what a human being can do with the words that AI cannot is I think it was Henry V, where Kenneth Branagh reads the St. Crispin's Day speech. Was it Henry V?
Yeah, Henry V.
So.
That's Henry V.
Read the words and then listen to Kenneth Branagh in a YouTube clip where he's doing the speech.
Goes for any Shakespeare. Any.
That is the difference between what a human brings and what a machine brings.
Yeah.
Just huge.
And just Kenneth Branagh with any Shakespeare. Just, so
yeah, there's so many really, really good Shakespearean actors. Laurence Olivier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just don't know until you see a proper acting company bring Shakespeare to life. You have no idea what you've missed, even with the archaic language. And if you come with a little bit of knowledge of the archaic language and you catch on to the puns and everything else, you will really love it. It is really good stuff.
And yeah.
But we have to stop there, because if you have any questions or comments about this show, you can send an email to show@DRS. I need to get that URL. show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find me on Mastodon at Paul_E_Cooley at Jesus Christ at VYRSC.social.
Do you want to start over? Bad. You know, we could go ahead and let you start over.
You can find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. That's managed by Terry. You can find us
right
on
the
YouTube.
First time.
YouTube.com/DRS podcast to see our ugly mugs and so many goddamn cats. And I used that old ugly mug thing again. And now Veronica's on the show, I'm not allowed to say that.
Yeah, you can totally say that. It's fine.
And if you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast and buymeacoffee.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive live shows, which is behind the scenes bullshit that we're about to do in, 8 or 9 minutes. And last week had a lot of butt stuff that we'll leave it right there. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Isabel Cushy, Lisa Slack, Tim Niederreiter, and Tony L. Joy. Thank you to all of our patrons who make this show possible.
And if you don't want to commit to being a long-term patron, you just want to see what it's like, you can go drop a couple of bucks and buy me a coffee and check out what the after show's about. Come on, just dip your toes in.
It works too, either way. Mm-hmm. Now, with all that bullshit out of the way, we got to do one more thing. We have to admit that we are caffeine junkies, and we get our caffeine from corpsecoffee.com. Visit corpsecoffee.com, check out their array of coffees, boutique teas, and a wonderfully weird webcomic, and tell them DRS sent you. Visit corpsecoffee.com and get the dead in your cup. And with that, we are the hell out of here. Well, yeah, or pimp us. That works too. Get us more
with or without fedoras.
With or without fedoras, yeah. Bring us YouTube subscribers. Bring us, then bring us Twitch subscribers, then bring us. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of
more coffee.
That sounds like a lot of work. Man, I really got to lay off the caffeine. Holy cow, too much corpse coffee. With that, we are out of here. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us, and hope you have a great week. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We is out of here.